Hi, I'm Kathy Fox Alfano. I'm with Bryan Cordeiro. And Bryan is, what is your title?
The project manager for Mass DOT, the Cape Cod Bridges program.
So he's the bigwig. So we got him to tell us a couple of things. Okay, first of all, Bryan, one of the things that I have been very concerned about is evacuation routes. If we have, not if, when we have a hurricane, you know it's coming, can these bridges be changed so that they can all go off Cape? So all the different routes can go off Cape. Can we manipulate it so that there's easy interchanges, maybe further away from the the initial ones, so to get people over, because everyone's going to be wanting to get off the Cape all at the same time.
Yeah, so what I'll say to that is, emergency response, as well as climate change adaptation and resiliency, is a key component of how we have gone through the evaluation process to ultimately select a recommended set of interchange pairings for both the Bourne and the Sagamore crossings. Looking at emergency response, what can we do to accommodate those things during a storm event or whatever it may be. And one of the key improvements that we found for the interchange pairing that we are presenting on today is the ability to sort of separate those local and regional movements from each other, which can go actually a long way. Like for instance, on Bourne South, Bourne on Cape, you'll see today there's the Bourne Rotary, and any through traffic wishing to go from Cape Cod north onto Route 25, they need to go through that rotary, which obviously doesn't have the same traffic processing capabilities as just going straight on the highway. So what we've done is we've separated those through movements from the at-grade intersections. So instead of the Bourne Rotary, what we have today is we have, with proposed conditions, folks wishing to go north off Cape will just be able to continue along Route 28. They will never have to go through any type of intersection or signal or anything like that, which is, just without an emergency event occurring, going to be a huge improvement. But it'll definitely open up opportunities for us to make additional improvements or coordinate with emergency response agencies like NEMO or the towns as well, to make sure that we're able to provide more improvements during those events.
Well, I see there's many little roundabouts. We won't call them rotaries anymore. We're calling them roundabouts. Does that give us an opportunity to change the flow of the traffic so that we can use both bridges going over, away from the Cape?
We haven't really gotten into that level of detail in terms of what the intersection controls can provide for emergency response, but that is, definitely something that we'll need to discuss further with the appropriate agencies and organizations associated with.
Right. I know that what you're doing is difficult enough, but I'm just trying to warn you, we might as well think about it now because it's going to happen. The other thing that concerns a lot of people is the noise pollution. There are people who live very close to the bridges. Do you have set hours when you'll be working, or what is being done to sort of make this livable for people?
So as part of the build conditions, so post-construction, one thing that we are looking at is the ability to provide noise abatement measures where it's feasible and reasonable. So that's going to be in our environmental review document, the NEPA draft environmental impact statement. It's going to have a noise analysis, which will go through the entire project limits, and it'll show where we may be able to provide noise walls, because this is considered type 1 action. We're relocating the highway in a substantial manner that would necessitate us to look at the ability to provide those noise walls. So that's what we're doing for the build condition. And during the construction period, we haven't figured out exactly what those work hours will be. A lot of that will be up to the design builder that will be awarded the project, and that awarding process isn't going to occur for a couple of years at this point. But we will put into the contract for that construction contractor performance requirements or for mitigating construction period noise, air, and dust.
Okay. Because I imagine it would be great to be able to work on this 24/7 to make it faster, but then the people who live right near them would have to move. I mean, it's too loud. There's no way to mitigate, the noise of taking down a bridge. I mean, there's just no way. So that's something, again, that I really hope they will think about in the years to come.
Yes.
The other thing is, again, people who live right near these bridges, are there currently plans to take homes by eminent domain?
So I'm not one of our right-of-way representatives, so I
Okay.
won't be able to speak in terms of like great detail on it. We do have some pamphlets here for folks
Right.
who want to know more about the process. But what we do is we have to follow this federal regulation that's called the Uniform Act, and that sort of sets a pretty rigid or rigorous process at which we need to assess our impacts to properties and ultimately provide just compensation based off of fair market value to those properties. And again, I don't want to step on our right-of-way representative toes, but they will be responsible ultimately for reaching out to affected property owners to begin that negotiation process. But I don't think that we typically use the term eminent domain because that implies that there's something forcible happening, but that's just not the case with the Uniform Act. What we want to do is follow the process and go through the necessary steps in order to, ultimately reach an agreement with the property owner.
Right. The problem is, of course, we have a real housing crisis already here on the Cape, and say if 20 homes are disappearing, it's going to be really hard to find 20 new homes for people even in this region, much less, in the same town. So that's something, again, I think we really have to fight for. And the other one is, my personal one is Born South. It looks like we have progressed from a signal to a rotary and a dumbbell rotary. What would you call that?
Yeah, a dumbbell or a dog bone,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. But yes, it is sort of a roundabout design that we have preliminarily selected as the preferred intersection control for the Bourne South Simple Diamond interchange. And we arrived at that by looking at various intersection control designs for Bourne South. Once we had the idea that the Simple Diamond interchange was rising to the top as sort of the recommended interchange option, then we needed to look at what those intersection controls look like. So we followed Mass DOT's intersection control evaluation process, where we cast a broad net at all the different intersection controls that could possibly fit into that location. And then we evaluated their ability to fit within the site. We looked at its ability to minimize impacts to property, environmental resource areas, and also accommodate traffic operations and geometrics and safety as well. And we looked at signalized intersections as well as roundabouts. And the Dogbone roundabout, as you see today, sort of rose to the top after following that process. So that's how we sort of selected it. And I think the graphics or like the illustrative videos that we have here sort of show a little bit about how that will function. I know that it looks quite a bit different than what people are used to, but I think so far we're getting a lot of good feedback from everyone on it, we're really happy to see that.
And one thing that concerns me is I know that you want to have traffic coming from 495-25 that is going to Route 6 to have them go on the scenic highway and then over the Sagamore to alleviate some of that rotary traffic. Now, what's going to happen, and I know you can't answer this question yet, it looks like with the new administration, we may not get the Bourne Bridge a year after the Sagamore like we were hoping. It's definitely a possibility. Is there a way to start sending the traffic that way anyway so that we give the Bourne Bridge some relief? Because that will be the old bridge, and you want to send them on the new repaired, brand new bridge. Is there a way to sort of, even if it's just a sign that says Route 6 this way, because it could literally be years and years where we have one new bridge and one old bridge.
Yeah, so we're certainly investigating what that might look like. However, we're going to remain optimistic that we'll be able to receive funding from the Bourne. Ultimately, they are federal assets. They're owned by the federal government. So the federal government is going to have to do something to the Bourne Bridge at some point, regardless. So, because of that, we sort of remain optimistic that we'll be able to receive funding at some point, because it is a program. There are 2 bridges here that we need to replace, and I think everybody recognizes that. But in terms of, in the event that something like that would happen, where we know that we are not receiving funding for the Bourne, we would definitely need to look at, what we could do as a sort of interim action. But hopefully we don't have to cross that bridge yet.
Great,
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to sit down and talk a little bit more about the project. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much, Bryan. Take care. Best of luck. So this is the current Sagamore South Crossing preferred map, which is what they are recommending. Okay, so you still come, when you're coming from Plymouth or you're coming down here, you're still doing this, and you're going either to Market Basket or straight down to Sandwich Road, or, so if you want to go south, you're going to come around, go down here and down Sandwich Road. Okay, when you're coming from the mainland, when you're coming from Sandwich Road, you're still doing the same thing. You're still coming up here, going up, around, and instead of going to Market Basket, you can go around here, go underneath the roadway, and merge onto our own lane going to Plymouth. People who are just going to Sagamore Beach stay in that right lane and they don't merge. People who are going further to Plymouth, etc., they have to get over somewhere on the bridge to get to the 2 lanes into Plymouth. All right? The difference here is if you're leaving Market Basket, instead of just a road, you're going to hit a rotary. So if you leave Market Basket, you come around here, you hit a rotary, you can go around the rotary and straight down here, or come this way, hit another rotary, and go down Cranberry Highway to get to Sandwich. So this road that people are familiar with will no longer exist. It only accesses the stores.